Hello, and welcome to another episode of Green Team of the Legendarium. I'm your host, Befuddled Panda, and here with me, I've got Yetti Beats,
Hello.
Spook,
Hello.
Sean,
We're back.
Seth.
We're so back.
Love it. Seth, we missed you on the last episode covering part 2. Very excited you're back because we need your thoughts about Gia, about Kutenrovo, about more characters that we'll get into. But with that, Yetti, if you need to leave this episode in the middle because your wife is giving birth, please feel
Yeah.
free to do so.
Yeah, I have a son tentatively due next next Tuesday, St. Patrick's Day, and that's like 4 days away. So I might might be out of here, but I will give my thoughts as much as I can before then on Kinry and not Gia. Unfortunately, tough episode for Seth to come back to for Gia. I mean, not much there. I mean,
Yeah, his favorite character. You can't talk about her much.
It's all right. Do you want to give any part 2 thoughts though? Any top view part 2 thoughts?
A very 30,000 foot view. I liked part 2. Battle of Crescent Island was cool. As always, the technological advancements are pretty sweet. I thought maybe the flashbacks were a little long-winded or more frequent than I would have liked.
I heard you agreed with Gia to call back everyone.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I think we'll get into that more in part 4 probably. But yeah, Gia has a vision that she's clearly willing to give her soul for.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you think that's the right one or the wrong one. By comparison, it might be easier to argue for hers than Kuten Rovo's vision of how the world ought to be. But yeah, as always, a ton of good kind of philosophy and just awesome stuff to chew on in this series. Part 2, part 3, really the whole thing. So yeah, that's my brief overview.
Cool.
This was, so we're just covering part 3 today. We will be covering part 4 and part 5 in the next episode. We're in the home stretch, guys. We're almost done with this 4-book series. I mean, 3 of the books
I
are
am done.
massive.
Some people have crossed the finish line.
Yes.
Yeah, full
do you wanna
disclosure for
admit?
the listeners. Yeah, I did go to the end, finish the book,
You're like,
finish
I
the
don't want to wait
series.
anymore.
Yeah, I had to. It was best. No regrets. And this is a small section here. It's not going to taint the podcast recording at all. It was an okay time to keep going, I think. But I won't really share too much on part 4 and 5. But it's all very positive, I will say.
I'm very encouraged by that and looking forward to get there myself. So, with that, let's get into our discussion about part 3. Part 3 opens following the aftermath of Peikyu Kuju's death within the Ryukyu. Tovo consolidates power via politics and appealing to the fear of his people. Along with a solid force of Gerinifins, they attack Thera and the Aegon, but are met with humongous live bone statues representing animals of the Scrublands that utilize sound waves to suppress the Ryukyu. The battle is bloody, much to Thorio's dismay. She ends up gutted by Tovo, but she restrains him with her intestines instead of choosing violence. The Aegon win the day, the Ryukyu on Ukyugande are no more, but Thorio is lost. Thera still has much to do. Kinri is wandering Dara and thinking about Farah. He passes out and awakens in a monastery dedicated to Refuso Mender. He hears the story of Toriana Pacific, which stresses to heal thyself and the world with thee. He asks to become an integral part of the temple. While having to copy temple texts, his boredom with the tasks prompts him to invent the typewriter. We get a look at the Tale of Three Swords as well as commentary on it. Farah arrives and the abbot insists that Kinri leaves with her to their next step in life. They run into Firo. Thera approaches the Aegon leaders. However, Audiolek is missing. She begins her speech to unite and rally her people, but Volyu shows up and appeals to the doubts, fears, and prejudices that the Aegon still hold on to. Thera is forced to flee with her faithful, but not before Gaal kills Volyu. They head for the City of Ghosts.
Yeah, where do you guys want to start? Should we go more or less in order? I mean, it's only a handful of chapters.
There's really like kind of two storylines.
There's only 2 things to do.
There's the
Right,
part
there are
with
only 2.
Kenry, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, so let's start with
Okay.
Thera. So basically, Spook, you predicted that we would get mechs, and here
I
we are.
was so right. my baseless claim that by the end of the series we were going to get mechs seemed more and more likely with every single book we read.
Yeah.
And then it happened. And I was like, I remember typing in our little group chat, I was so right. I called it. Just so excited.
Not only are they mechs, they're like
Bone mechs.
Power Rangers, like dinosaur
Yeah.
Megazord mechs.
I definitely was picturing the Power Ranger giant like robots made out of bone.
And it's so cool. And honestly, Yetti, the fact that you're able to keep your poker face as I'm just making these baseless claims that we're getting mech units.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I have like an abysmal memory. So I probably just didn't remember at the time when you said it
Fair enough.
until I jogged my memory reading it. I'm like, oh, yeah, there they are. That's right.
How can you forget that happened? That is such a cool scene.
It's just old age. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, eventually when I read it, the first thing I thought of was like, oh my God, Spook. Yeah. He was right there.
So now do we think that Sean's
Are we going to space?
yeah, Sean's prediction.
Only Sean knows that.
I
Sean
will
and you
say,
know that.
I do owe Ken Liu an apology because mid-fight with the mechs, I was like, I need to know every intricacy of how these were made right now. I don't care how many flashbacks it takes. I need to be bought in on the development of these. And we don't get that much. I was like, okay, whatever.
Were you satisfied with what you got?
Yeah, it honestly wasn't a big deal, but I was like, I would be down for a 100-page flashback on like
Wow.
the making of these mechs right now.
Okay.
I owe you an apology, Ken Liu.
If I could throw maybe a different take than everyone, I actually didn't love that that sequence and everything because I think I was kind of burnt out on like I just figured everything would work out for Tara and stuff in that sense. It's like, all right, like we've been through this so many times in the other books where it's like something going on, they'll counter and then in the end they'll prevail with wits or something or smarts. And I was just like, I almost wanted to fast forward to it. It's like I know how this ends,
Wow.
almost until you get to the Thorio part, which is great. But the whole like battle or fight stuff, I'm like, I just don't have time for it anymore. I was like, I get it.
I'm with you to an extent.
You kind of got like just waiting for her story to progress a little bit to where we got it. Essentially, like there's one big fire scene, a standoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that I was just I wasn't actually into it. And like you said, it was kind of shallow to an extent. Like, it didn't go super deep as maybe it would in previous books he wrote or chapters, which is fine. It's the fourth book and the third part. I was like, I don't really want it to, but I don't know. So yeah, a little hot take there.
On like the note of not going deep enough, I think we have a decent understanding of how it works just because we know.
Yeah, like Speaking Bones stuff.
Yeah, from this
whatever they're called.
Like the foundation preview.
Yeah. Like the technology has been explained, and then it's like, well, it's used by the winds to have it moving, which I think we have a general understanding of how that would work. And so I never felt it lacking in terms of needing an explanation.
Yeah, I think mostly Yetti's was kind of tired with the plotting of how these battles have gone and this one goes, which I think I'm with you there. I don't remember being super invested in that sequence until the Thorio stuff was big, but the Tovo POV, which was a unique facet, wasn't bad. He was kind of like a new villain of the week stand-in for the Leiuku because he's like the only leader of relevance left.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's more interested in what happened with that. The villain is actually, or villain, quote unquote, is the people she fought for turning on her is way more interesting than just the next guy in line who is Leiuku that she now has to get through. Or it's just like, we're done with this. What's the real problem with what she wants to accomplish? And it's chapter 33. Like that's the cool. Once we got to that, I was like, all right,
it's where the meat is.
Yeah, thematically, even if that was tired in a sense too.
Are they coming off of a win, like Thera and all that? Are they coming off of a win? Or are they coming off of a loss? They are, right? So it's a bit redundant then, I suppose. Although I'm sure Ken Liu would disagree. Like he felt like he had to tie up some loose ends, or like it's obvious that there's factions of Leiuku that would like a sizable factions that would rise up. He felt the need to like go through someone coming into power with Leiuku and then kind of dealing with that. So like I get it, but Yeah.
Yeah, you arguably didn't even need the mecha stuff. Like after she
Yeah.
pulled the bomb portion off, you could have had that fire pit scene and her saying like, "Yeah, I don't want to continue violence for Sam. Let's work together." Like you really
Mm.
didn't need to see that the next guy who stepped up, him die too. I guess for the Thorio stuff, maybe.
I think that
Yeah.
part was needed because there needed to be like a clean tie off of the Lyuku thread. And I think at that point, I think Leo was just having fun, like
I agree.
having fun with the awesome factor, which I really enjoyed. And then also in that section, I think building on the Granafin being like more social creatures and having their own culture and how like they had similarities to humans where they retold stories and the stories took on a life of their own. That scene did have a little bit of the Star Wars syndrome where all the spaceships popped up. You know what I'm talking
Mm.
about, that scene?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
But
we don't need to get into Rise of Skywalker.
Please.
but it was still, like, really cool for me to read that section, and then, yeah, the Torio part was definitely, hammering home or, like, starting to hammer home the theme for
Yeah.
the remainder of the book, I think.
Yeah, which probably validates the inclusion of the entire set piece, the entire battle, I would think.
Yeah. And I think also it's just like another demonstration of the melding of the Laiku and Daran, well, the Aegon and the Daran cultures and like their inventions and to create something new.
Mhm.
I also liked the usage of the tiger,
Mm-hmm.
where they're using its like soundless roar to melt brains.
Yeah.
I do think this entire section was pretty popcorny. Like, here, have a cheeseburger and have fun with this. Then we're really getting into something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But I had a
And
lot of fun with it.
I like what you said, Spook, because I'm sure I brought this up on previous episodes, but I like how he clearly just layers stuff beforehand and sets it up like throughout all these books. And that's just another example of the lion stuff. Whereas when it first came up, a couple parts ago, and when Thera or no, whoever ran into
It,
that lion thing,
it was
was
Thera.
it Thera?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thera. Like that clear comes back in another sense, and he just does that all the time. And I think that's so it's almost like not a wasted, you know, unit of his writing in his mind, at least. Sometimes I might think it's a waste, but he's always kind of using that stuff for a reason.
Seth, anything you want to add about that section?
He's still grieving Thorio.
The Thorio was by far the best part of Thera's whole section in part 3, I think. Yeah, I think I agree with Yetti. There's two parts in this section. I enjoyed one far more than the other. I think most of the themes or the lessons that we got from Thera here, we've already had a couple times at this point. But the very end of her section in part 3 gave me some faith for her storyline, I think.
Yeah.
Where she's headed and maybe some of the implications of that. I do like Thera as a character. I'm just so tired of the Lyuku-ness.
We've had enough
Uh,
of him. Three
yeah,
books
And
of
the
just idiots.
Aegonness.
but I get what he's trying to say. Cycles of violence and things like that. There's a lot to chew on there, and I don't disagree with him. And maybe that's part of it too. I'm like, yeah, I agree. So
Oreo did her part, or their part, trying to stop the cycle of violence by, they used their intestines to like wrap up Tovo.
Oh my god.
It's so metal. Like, wow.
I felt like I was reading Malazan for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like the fact that she decided to do that instead of any sort of violence was like, wow. I mean, you're definitely living out your values there, being so impassioned about not performing an act of violence, just willing to use your own intestines to protect someone you love instead of actually enacting any sort of violence.
Which is, that's so interesting. I remember that scene was like vivid in my mind on this reread. So every time I read that god in the previous books, I always had that image in my head that that's how he's protecting someone he loves, which
Oh.
theoretically I think gods are supposed to do, or ideally. And so I always just thought that kind of sacrifice was beautiful in the thinking who it actually is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the turtle guy, whatever, who was always my favorite in Grace of Kings and Wall of Storms. But
Also, before we move on from this battle,
Mhm.
unless you have something on this, Panda.
Oh, I was gonna ask, like, do the people who haven't read to the end think that this is the end of that god? It's Lutho?
Yes.
Like, what
Uh,
happens when a god turns into mortal and then the mortal dies?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, then and the god's not in Dara anymore. It's a Dara
Right.
god in a foreign land. I'm gonna say we see them again. I have no basis for that thought or claim. It's pure hunch.
Okay.
so, I'm sorry. Anytime Seth makes a guess, I immediately just think of when he said Luanzia was like going to become the Dark Lord. I like it can. It's like stuck with me always. It's just
One of the
all
worst
time.
takes of all time.
It's so good. Sorry, it just PTSD.
I don't know. I think Lutho became mortal, therefore when he dies Astorio, he's dead. And I think we're gonna get a reaction from the other gods.
Mm,
I think
okay.
something's gonna happen where the other gods are gonna be like, uh-oh, that's not good.
Okay. Or do you think they'll take it as, like, an inflection point for them to, like, change their behaviors and how they interact with humans? Or
Well, I think Lutho acted kind of opposite from them,
yeah.
right?
I don't think he sold the idea of turning mortal to any of them.
I definitely don't think
Oh,
that,
wow.
especially because it probably requires going through the Wall of Storms and
Probably.
leaving Dara. I don't know.
Okay.
Or I mean, there's the other kind of we have the way that the gods are perceived on Dara affects how they are,
Mm.
as we saw with the Lyuku coming in. Like their perception of their own gods started morphing the Daran gods to kind of be a mixture of both.
Mm.
So I'm wondering if maybe Lutho comes back just because of how the gods have worked in the past, where it's their perception defines who they are. I don't know.
Okay.
I think it'd be more cool if Lutho is gone though.
I think it would make the sacrifice mean more. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
I hope that they don't come back.
Or maybe we get like a Lutho and Thoryu realization moment or something like that, and like a little, like kind of how when Kuni dies, we get him in kind of heaven or
Oh, I
whatever
see.
their afterlife is. Maybe we get something like that,
Force
Uh-huh.
Ghost.
and it's like, do you think your path was worth it? Do you think this experience was worth it? And it's like a yes kind of thing.
I think a lot of those moments though were like the gods kind of claiming the mortal, but this is a god who became mortal that is away from like the land of reverence. So
And
I don't know.
wasn't
I
there
don't
like
know.
some turtle action after she died? Like, didn't Thera see
Oh, really?
turtles or something? Yeah, could be making
I don't remember.
Thera, they like etched messages
right
on sea turtle shells, and then those were
right
let.
after. Yeah,
Yeah, and she was hoping that they would reach Dara, and that
right.
was like the last message she would send to her family.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
remember thinking, I guess two smaller things before we go to the inevitable next section of this section. I remember like taking note after this battle. And I was like, Is this the end of Thera's story? Like, are we all Dara now? Like, is this it?" Was not the
Yeah.
case. But I remember thinking like, I mean, it seems like done deal. Like we're ready to move on. Vadu had different plans. Obviously, I like kind of forgot about him.
Yeah.
Last other small tidbit was Tova was making me laugh a lot during this section when he would always say, "Why am I doomed to such short battles leading to undance-worthy victories?" Like he's just like every facet of the battle, he was like, "No, this is not how I want this to go. There's no glory here." And then meanwhile, I was just kind of getting like outmaneuvered a lot of the time, and just it was pretty slapstick funny, but it
Yeah.
worked for me.
Nice. Well, I know that Seth, you wanted to say some stuff about Volyu. So, what you got?
Oh, yeah, I can't stand the guy. There's nothing really
Nothing.
substantial there. Well, it's like as soon as, well, I shouldn't say as soon as, like there's been this really arduous journey for Thera. they get here. This thing felt kind of like the last battle where she starts picking the pieces up, and then like Leo pulls the rug out from under her again. She gets duped by the same guy again. Yeah, so
I
he's
forgot
just the
about him.
worst. Yeah, I did too. And then he comes back, and I'm like, oh, here we go.
See, it's understandable.
Yeah,
There it
he
is too.
reminds me of Frank Gallagher from the show Shameless.
Yeah,
Just
I get
every
that
time he
vibe.
shows up, I'm just like, gosh, I hate this guy so much. He's just such a deadbeat.
It was a full chapter of rage bait.
Ugh!
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's exactly what it is. We got rage baited, and I'm glad he's gone. And yeah, that's all. I just wanted to say my part. I hate that guy.
I don't think that's the moral of that part, Seth.
I think I'm like with Seth, and I agree with you, Panda. I think it's like the juiciest chapter of the whole part 3.
Ooh.
Okay.
I hate
Seth's like, "No."
I like also definitely felt fed up with him when I was like, oh god, this guy again. But I thought it was so important in like the ideas that Thera is trying to, bring together these people or start something new. And I try not to bring too much of the real world stuff in here, but it really made me think of real world stuff where it's like even if someone
Mhm.
in leadership or anything does something good for people, if you support people that look different than you, or you can't drink the same things they drink or anything like that, they will turn on you with the first push of any charlatan or grifter or anyone who is loud enough. People will turn like that no matter how good you made their life.
Mm.
Thera defeated the Liuku. I mean, point blank,
Yeah.
something no Aegon could do. And even like the highest you could do, because she couldn't drink the milk, Volyu pointed out, because she wasn't totally supportive of the same gods that, doesn't pray to the same gods that they do. Didn't want to continue the cycle of violence and beat up on them, bury them when they're down. Immediately these people turn on her. And if that's like not the most real world stuff I can think of at the moment, I just couldn't get over it. But at the same time, I had the same reaction as Seth with Volyu. I was like, I've had enough of him. Like, I don't want to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree, because like, assimilation, I think, is a topic that gets kind of pondered a lot in this series. And
Mhm.
we have a whole section with, this isn't part 2, but what's the prince's name? Why can't I think of his name?
Talkball.
Talkval. He finds the gal that he thinks is going to be his wife, and she's from like this island, and her people are interacting more with the Darans now, like the mainland Darans, and their culture's changing. They're kind of assimilating, but the whole point I think Lou is trying to say with that is like, anytime two cultures collide, like whether one's the victor or not, like both cultures are changed. And Thera's POV is like, has a very pessimistic view of maybe what
The
it
Aegon.
means, of the Aegon, and of like the Liuku, and how those relationships can turn south. But like we have examples in the book where different cultures, I think, are doing okay with each other, and so it's not an always thing. I just feel like this section didn't say anything that Ken hadn't already said before, which is why it was frustrating for me with Thera. Like I think he'd hit this point before. I think the message sunk in for me. I think I got what he was trying to say, and it was more the repetition that didn't land for me.
I think the prince you were talking about is maybe Firo
Timu?
or Timu?
The
Like the one
one,
that's
No, Timu is with
yeah, the one that's
the
like
one that
yeah.
should be on the Darren throne. I can't remember.
Firo.
There's
Firo.
Firo. Yeah. I thought you were talking
Okay,
about
okay.
Talkball.
So many princes.
But I think the reason why this section with Thera and Volyu is a bit different is because of the convo she had with Throyo, and Throyo posing the question, like, how does this end? Like, how do I know, right? Like, if I'm supposed to kill or not? And Thera's response to her was like, well, it's really like experience. And now she's had this experience. She's lived through like these repetition of the violence, and she's at this point really struggling because she was getting really angry too, right? And she wanted to kill Volyu. Like she could signal to her soldiers and have him be killed. She could have brought her soldiers with her, the people who fought with her, use a force show of might. She could have not told them, like, it's actually not magic. It's really just science and, innovation. But in this section, she made the conscious choice of trying to follow Thorio's path. And obviously, it's not going to be that simple. There's so much baggage, so much history. There's so much pent up hatred and desire for vengeance. And, at one point, Liu specifically points out even the Aegon Thanes that fought with her, they saw her. They saw what she did. They were willing to reject her because it was better for them selfishly to go with the vengeance, to go with what Volyu said, even though they know he was not telling the full truth. And that, I think, to me, that was like so frustrating, but so realistic. I really wanted to throw this book across the room. I was so upset, and I was like, how can this end? Like, that is the question. That is what Thorio posed, right? How can you end this? How can you break this cycle? And Thera is wrestling with that. And I don't know. I don't know what Liu is gonna have at the end of this. Is it gonna feel sappy and cheesy and it's like, oh, it's gonna be all kumbaya? I don't think so. I hope not, because that would really cheapen all of this, like, frustration and, like, philosophical and moral quandary that he put us through. But I that's why, to me, I think it to Yeti's point, it is a quite meaty section. And then we see the mirror of this quandary from Kinri's perspective.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was going to be my next point. Is like, when I first started section 3, I was like, what, Kenry and Thera? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, we just had this juicy darn conflict in part 2, and but I think it's exactly what you said. It's a mirrored element. But I think, if I had to guess, this
Yeah.
is my prediction, that they spend a lot of time with Kenry about, like, the preservation of knowledge, the spreading of knowledge. I thought about, like, the real world implications in real life of what happened when the printing press was invented.
Yep.
And I think almost certainly knowledge, education, those types of things are going to at least play some part in how this cycle is broken, if that's where the story ends.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be curious to see. That is the thing I'm most curious, actually, about finding out, I think, after finishing this section.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. Like, Kinri ends up with these monks, and they're called the Mendists, right? And they're all about, like, trying to heal the world, whether physically, emotionally, or intellectually too. And yeah, there are a lot of great quotes from that section. But anybody else want to chime in about what they thought of Kinri's section?
Kinry or Thera's?
Kinri.
Okay.
If you have more to say about Thera, feel free.
I think I had some for the Volyu section.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I don't know. I think Volyu's interesting. Because he is kind of like
I agree.
this thorn in everyone's side for a long time.
Uh-huh.
But he's a thorn he's a thorn that has caused so much strife, and is almost like the character that's keeping things moving for Thera. Because I think every single time she's about to kind of settle in and able to, like, build, he does something.
He's a dose of reality.
Yeah. That's just like, no, you can't sit here. I get to decide what happens. And so I'm very curious what's gonna happen now, as Volyu's dead. So, that thorn's gone. Thera's going to her children. She doesn't know it, but she's going to her children. So that should be a nice kind of reunion, I hope, in this next couple
Hopefully.
sections. But I think one of my favorite parts in the section of the Volyu is, I listened to this section through audiobook just because I was like at work and I'm like, I don't have time to like read this right now, but I want to continue because I read about half of this chapter and needed to know what happened next.
You don't have to
so
justify your audiobook listening. It's fine.
But I remember reading this section, getting really, really mad on my lunch break, and then my lunch break is over, and I'm like, well, I need to know what happens next. And then just getting even more mad because the voice just kind of gives it more power. And
Michael Kramer, for those who
shout out
didn't know.
Michael Kramer. He's the GOAT. But my favorite section, I think, in all of this is like there's like this quiet moment where Thera realizes no one else can hear her but him. And so she's like pleading with him. She's like, why are you doing this? You know, you have nothing to gain from this. You have everything to lose from this. Why are you acting this way? And his response is just like pure villainous. And I think he's one of the only people to have kind of this extreme villainous intent that I don't think's really existed. Because I think everybody else has done this for some sort of self gain. Whether or not the self gain is to be the strongest leader for the Yuku and kind of progress them or and whatnot.
What does he say?
His entire I don't remember exactly, but his entire purpose is just to tear her down. Like he does not care what happens to him as long as she is torn down because that's how much he hates her.
Well, he's embodying, right, pure vengeance,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
He's a man-child. He's a petulant man-child. That's a sore loser. It's what he is. He like,
Yeah.
and to be clear, like you guys are talking about it, this is all Thera's fault. Like that he keeps popping up. Or he's
Yeah,
For
pulling
not
her
killing
MP.
she
him.
didn't kill him.
Yeah. And she talked about it with one of her followers afterwards where she's, if I would have done things differently
Yeah.
or things like that. And, and her one person said, Cooney did it. He betrayed Mata, things like that. But she also said, we follow you because you do have compassion. But I mean, it's her own, that's the experience that's coming from. But it reminds me of, Breaking Bad, where it's like no half measures. I mean, if you don't punish people when they commit crimes or they do wrongs, they're going to do it again. I mean, you cannot do things half measures. And he was like that to a T. Like, so it didn't surprise me he kept popping up. It's tiresome, but I was like, this is totally tracks. I mean, why wouldn't he? He's not going to change. He is who he showed his cards the very first time we met him. And he's going to keep doing it until he's properly punished in some form or fashion. And he never was.
I do think so. Panda, you said how he essentially embodies the old, what Thera hopes is outdated mindset of the Aegon with respect to vengeance and how they want to rule the scrublands and live their lives, right? So now I'm thinking about how how he met his end. He was immolated. Was it by anyone's direction or it just like happened?
Yeah, no, it was Tifo? Tipo, right?
All right. Yeah. Now see, now I'm thinking like he was essentially embodying all that I just said. Is it maybe a bit unsatisfactory thematically that within this same section he kind of just is a casualty of kind of like the
Vengeance.
small little skirmish vengeance there? Like I don't know what that says really. I like it makes it seem like that section was more so a device for the plot to put strain on Thera and have her kind of have to like regroup and re-strategize and just
I think almost like a flip side of that is we see this kind of act of vengeance being taken back on Volue, but there's no justice by that being done.
Okay.
Where he creates this entire kind of schism between Thera and all of the Aegon, and then he just gets away with it and dies. Probably pretty painlessly because it seems like he's immediately incinerated.
Right.
And there's no like sense of justice because Thera has to leave and she is being chased. And this kind of revenge that's done feels unsatisfactory almost because revenge is never satisfied.
I think it's almost
just
irrelevant
perpetual.
whether he died or lived. The biggest part was what you said, Spook, is that it showed the true colors of, I think, humanity in a sense, but that's a pessimistic view. But the Aegon, where it's like I said, something so quick like that, or someone smooth talking can turn them on Thera that quick. And it's not just Aegon, it would have been if she got in with Ayuku or whoever. And I think that's kind of why at the end, where she has this idea of where we're not going to be Aegon or Liuku, we're going to have our own new thing. with my own ideal or our own ideals. I think that was all in favor of her having that realization. But yeah, I thought his biggest thing was just to kind of wake Thera up to like, you can't just, you know, win people over that easy. Essentially, it's not a storybook. It's not a fantasy book. Essentially, that you're going to be the queen of the Aegon. They're all going to cherish you. It's like it takes something that easy for them to flip on you. It wasn't even something that was built up over months or years. It was just one speech out of fire.
Yeah, like you said, he just came in, was the loudest person in the room, and fed into fears and doubts and all that. I do love how all five of us are saying things that at times are at odds with what the other is saying, yet everything that all five of us is saying is also true. Like everything we're all saying is true, some of which kind of combat with the others, but like there's like so many different ways you can digest multiple parts of this section.
I also want to be clear. I was like
Good
totally
book.
tired of this stuff during that chapter. I was like, I'm just sick of it. Like this was like my least.
Kinry.
Yeah, well, even that I was sick. Well, we'll get into it, but I was just
Oh
like,
no.
it wasn't until after I read the chapter and kind of marinated on it. But as I was reading it, I was like, I'm just done with all this stuff. Can we pass?
So to answer your question, Sean, like, did Volyu like just dying so quickly cheapen, what Liu was trying to convey in this? I think no, in the sense that because we see that after Volyu dies, right, nothing really changed.
Yeah,
The
true.
Aegon, right, like they were still out to get her and thinking that whoever kills her, right, would be more justified to be the leader. So yes, he was annoying, but just snuffing him out like wasn't the silver bullet answer. And Thera, to her benefit, but also kind of downfall, is that she is so idealistic. The gap between the ideal of what she was striving towards versus where the Aegon were was so vast, right? And I
Yeah,
think this is where, it really is a lesson for her about, okay, how to compromise. Like, how to meet your audience where they are, but not, trying as much as you can to not compromise your ideals. And
yeah.
it's really, really hard, right? Sometimes you do have to like get down, in the nitty-gritty level, but you wanna minimize the negative impacts as much as possible, and that's just a really hard line to walk.
Yeah. The whole time I was thinking, like she starts off her speech, and like from the beginning, I was like, oh, she's coming on too strong. These are like too many big sweeping changes, too quick,
Yeah.
even on the heels of a victory. So like from the get go, I was pretty nervous about the section. Add on top of that, which we haven't mentioned, her shaman advisor was missing, which was a bad omen
Tough
and
blow.
weakened her. Yeah, tough blow for sure. That was sad, but that weakened her positioning also, both when she was kind of there herself and after her Vadu showed up. So yeah, I agree. Okay, surely we're on a Kinnery stuff now, right?
I
Get
mean,
to the monk.
I will say, almost as a transition to Kinry,
Do
I
it.
like how this section happens with Volyu and Thera kind of firming how she wants to be a leader, like moving
Mhm.
forward, and kind of coming to that realization and getting her people kind of together with her on that as we go into the next chapter where it talks about kind of the Three Swords story.
Mhm.
And I feel like there is kind of a
Yeah.
relation to that and how the sword of the Grace of Kings kind of ties in, where she has sacrificed so much personal stuff and so much of other people to move forward and try and meet something that fits her ideals.
Yeah, it's also in conversation with the Mendis in general and Torioana's ideology
I love the
in
Toriana
ways.
section.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Real quick, is it Vadu or Volu? We're
Volyu.
saying different things.
I think Vaju is another character.
Yeah.
I'm checking the Dramatis Personae.
Volyu.
Yes.
It is Volu. Damn it. Okay.
All these names very similar.
Yeah. So who wants to take us deeper into Kinry section?
Well,
I thought it was a snore fest.
It's
okay.
Tavanaki.
Okay.
Tavanaki's Vaju.
Oh, that's her other name. Okay, my bad. I
So
will just start off
Yetti fell
saying,
asleep reading this section. Okay.
come on, this is par for the course for the series, but not entirely, but yeah.
I also didn't like most of this section.
I love.
I
I'm a big
didn't like.
Toriano guy.
I
I'm a
liked.
Mendis.
I liked every part that didn't have to do with Kenry.
Oh, wow.
Up until
Get-
the end. Up until the end.
Get him back
But,
in the kitchen, for God's sake.
yeah.
He wants to go back to the kitchen.
Seth's nightmare.
I did
Splendid
note
urn. Okay, Sean, go
first
ahead.
chapter of the section where we get the Toriana stuff. I did note possible cipher for the series here: heal thyself and the world with thee, which is like one of his main, I don't know, preaching topics, whatever. One of the main lessons from Mendis. But then like Thorio lives that out in her action of wrapping that guy up with her intestines. She's kind of healing herself in a way by choosing to not commit these acts of violence, trying to heal the world through that denial of violence. It has an effect on Thera that can ripple down in big ways. But I think heal thyself in the world with the heal thyself part, and what comes of that, it hasn't explicitly been said to that level until now. But I think there's a lot of that floating around the series up to this point.
I think you might have hit it on the head, which is, how to break out of the cycle of violence is to turn inward.
Mhm.
And for the people who do want to break out of it, right, it's to come to peace with yourself and, you know, control the actions that you can, right, which is your own, how you
Yeah.
react,
Yep.
whether you choose violence or not. I think the hard part about that is you can't control other people's reactions.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to kill you, if somebody wants to cause you harm, it almost seems like, there's the biblical saying of like when somebody hits you, turn the other cheek.
Right.
And that is a really hard thing to do at times, right? If you had a real life you like coming up on you and making your life miserable and you're supposed to just like what, hug them?
Yeah. Or like Thera says, like after we kill the Lyuku, then no more killing, because they're the ones being the aggressor right now.
It's a really hard thing.
I think
Yeah.
with the Kinry section, what I probably did appreciate most, and Seth alluded to it earlier, is that this was like the first time in his life that he was kind of knowledge and education was at his fingertips. That wasn't doctored or hidden from him or twisted in a sense, because what he grew up reading
Or
and
even dangerous.
yeah, had a biased tint to it, or he had to really he had to go hide to read stuff that wasn't totally on the Liuku's, twist of the stories on it. How he grew up. This is the first time he got to read things as they actually happened without bias or history and things like that. And yeah, and it just feels like education to me. Just my personal take on it is probably one of the biggest ways you get to break the cycle of violence. Is an educated populace to an extent. So I thought that was interesting. I'm just kind of sick of the, lost souls going to monks or religion or something and hiding. It's like Ace Ventura 2 or something where he's hiding with the monks. I'm done.
Or Sister Act.
Yeah, I don't need to. We all know what's happened. He's cowering. Someone will give him a pep talk. Like, you can't hide here. Go make change.
So like Spook, you mentioned in our group chat, like Luke Skywalker thing. For
Yeah.
me, I was very much thinking of the Dark Knight, where Bruce goes, or no, I guess Dark Knight Rises,
Yeah.
right?
That's the
Where
one where he goes away.
where he goes into that like pit.
Yeah.
It was like that same like storytelling, but just like for a scholar instead of a superhero.
Yeah, I had some takes on Kenry in this section that I think the ending saves it, but I still hold kind of fast to what I said earlier, where because I think a lot of his end goal in this section, or for Kenry's kind of like mental journey, his end is to kind of put a stop to the cycle of violence that he has been kind of forced into by his mother and his sister. But I don't think he is intentionally walking that direction. I feel like he is ending up in that direction because he wants to run away from it. And I think that's the intent leading to the same part doesn't make it the same as if he was intentionally trying to break that cycle.
You don't think he's trying to intentionally break the cycle? Because he says, like, my father's side destroying my mother's side and vice versa. Like, he can't choose a side.
I think he's torn between those sides, and it's more he's not running towards something, he's running away.
You mean running
and
away from this confrontation and
yes,
reconciling the two sides?
yes, and like how you said earlier, where the way that you deal with ending that cycle of violence is turning inward. I didn't feel like he was doing that. I felt like he was more trying to find an escape from it, and he
Even at
wasn't
the end?
willing. The ending is what saves it.
Okay,
But up to this point, this is kind of like how
got
I'm
it.
feeling it. And even then at the end, it wasn't
Yeah.
him that came to that realization. It was
Yeah.
it was the monk saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
Your time's
you
up.
are
Like,
not
yeah.
doing this right."
And
I
Farah.
and Farah. I did save the quote from what's his name? Tossed stone axe, broken stone axe.
What a name.
Where he says, "To tarry at the temple as an excuse to escape from your attachments, your responsibilities, is also to avert your eyes from the suffering of the world." And
Yeah.
I felt like that
Good
is
one.
like, yes, that is what I feel like he is doing. He is not confronting these issues. He is just trying to find an escape from them, which is why I related it back to Luke Skywalker in Last Jedi, where he is running away from all these issues, but I felt like he was more justified in that because he's lived longer and it's like trauma of war and whatnot. But yeah,
Say that name again?
Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker.
No. The monk.
Something stone axe, thrown stone axe, discarded
All
stone
right.
axe.
Yeah, Yetti. If you haven't come up with a baby name yet, that one's on me.
Right there. That's Sean's recommendation.
Yeah.
Duly noted.
All right.
Also, I did have a note on the Toriano section. I have another quote
Mhm.
from that. Because I did really, really enjoy kind of, again, the blending of these Aegon and Liuku gods with the gods of Dara, where these people who follow this Daran god just kind of accept the teachings of Toriano. And I really like that story. And there's one line in it that, again, it toes itself into more current events, but I think it is relevant no matter what's happening. Where it says, "To blind one's eye and deafen one's ear against the suffering of the world is also error. To avert one's face, to hide behind the excuse of ignorance, is also a sin that increases suffering." Which is this guy's response to, "Why are you watching us brutally murder your wife?" And he's like, "Well, I have to.
Mhm.
It's only going to increase the suffering if I try and hide from this," which again relates back to Kinry, where he is trying to find an escape from his own kind of inner turmoil, and it's him kind of accepting that and confronting what's going on is how he will be able to actually escape from it.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think we processed a lot of that stuff very similarly.
Just imagine Seth sitting there just steaming over Kinry being such a wuss.
No, I really liked this section quite a bit.
There
Yeah.
we go.
Anything in particular that stood out to you?
I mean, I think Spook pretty aptly summarized many of my thoughts.
Nice.
Although I, maybe on a personal note, am less worried about how people get to these answers and whether or not they're intentional. I think
Yeah.
some of life's best lessons are the ones you weren't looking for to begin with.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's obvious at the start of this section that Kenry was experiencing like some pain of the soul, like a real, I want to call it a crisis of faith, maybe a crisis of self. And I'm a real sucker for any book, fiction or otherwise, that takes the time to ruminate on the importance of stories, the importance of literature and of knowledge, right? Like we made a big deal of like their God says you have to acknowledge suffering. Well, in order to even do that, you have to understand suffering, or on even a conceptual level, which really just ties back into like defeating as much ignorance in yourself as possible. So yeah, I mean, really pretty philosophical section, and definitely not quickly paced. So if people had complaints about it in that sense, I get it, but I respectfully disagree.
I think what is interesting, the way that Liu had put Kinri in this role of bookmending, it's like a parallel to him where, there are conflicting accounts of, whatever text that was lost, or like there are only fragments surviving because somebody quoted it, or etc. And he is supposed to create a holistic, as much as possible, right? A holistic version of the text, but then with the commentary of the various perspectives on that piece of text. And I actually really enjoyed that Liu gave us an example
Hmm.
in here. The way that I see this is for Kinri, like, yes, he is a child born of two very different and warring cultures and societies. But the way to reconcile him, like who he is, what he believes, what his identity is he gets to choose. He gets to choose which parts of each side to bring together, to identify with, to say, this is me. And understanding that there are different perspectives. There is no mold per se for him to fit. He can choose to be whatever it is that he wants to create his identity to be. So I thought that was a pretty elegant way of kind of showing his journey here.
I
Definitely.
also just love that, like, this has been recurring through the whole series, but like Ken Liu's like kind of ongoing love letter to like logograms and kind of the
Mm.
complexity of the languages that use them. It's made me really wish that I grew up in a society probably that had some sort of something like that. You know, the layers.
You can
Uh,
still learn if you want.
yeah, I could learn it, and
Not too
it's
late.
made me like want to learn. I think it's really cool, just like the idea of like logogram riddles and stuff,
Yeah.
all that.
Mhm.
Anyway, he's brought this up constantly
Sorry, I'm
throughout the
laughing.
series.
I'm laughing at your
The hell?
cat.
Yeah.
Is that your cat, Seth?
Oh, he's all the way outside. I didn't even know you guys could hear him.
Someone's
I
making
hear
a cat
you.
noise. I thought it was Spook under his breath or something.
My bad, guys. Yeah.
No.
Anyway, no, I
Sorry, I
love
just,
the.
just
Mine's asleep right now.
Yeah, someone let him out, and he wants back in, but I'm not giving up.
Trying to chime in.
Anyway, yeah, it's cool. The love language to um
yeah.
or love letter to language is just kind of refreshing, and it's obvious that Ken like really like thinks highly
Yeah.
of it.
Logograms are fantastic, and like they're used through the whole series. It's great.
Well, this section, I think we get the clearest kind of like picture of what these logograms actually look like, or like how people actually like write with them. Which it's fascinating because I'm familiar with Chinese, like writing Chinese, and logograms are definitely inspired by them. But then they're a bit different because they're 3D element
Mm-hmm.
to it, which I'm, like, having a really hard time picturing, like, how do you actually, like, read
Because
that and, like, create it?
you can put certain aspects of it within others in like a three-dimensional space. So it's like it changes the
Yeah,
meaning of what you put inside of something, or like what something encapsulates.
right. But there was a part where I don't know if this was Lou's intention, but the way that I read it, I felt like it was a bit of a commentary on AI and art. So the section, it says, I doubt anyone has ever written torrent script with such perfection, perhaps not even Ushin Pidaji, declared Thase Teki with pride. He had deliberately avoided the word beauty. It was believed that a great calligrapher wielded the knife with their spirit, so that part of their soul was captured in wax. The best calligraphy specimens, therefore, were captured as much for their imperfections and seeming flaws as for their adherence to standard aesthetic rubrics. The mechanistic logogram produced by the machine was indeed perfect, though that perfection also removed it from the realm of the human. And to me, I mean, given where we are today in technological advancements and the discussion of AI, art, generative AI, etc. I thought this captured it really, really well. Yes, technology can reproduce and can produce something that is like mechanically perfect, but because there was no feeling, there was no like heart put into its creation. It's in the sense of this paragraph, it's like it's not considered beauty that human made art would be. It's just a mimic of what humans can actually create.
1,000,000%. Like, people don't understand that aspect of art, and like, unfortunately, it's evident that like a lot of the population doesn't when it comes to like the defense of like AI art. You know, whether you can tell a difference between one picture and the other is irrelevant. But when you know the real reason art is made and appreciated is that human element.
Because it's made for communication, right? It's self-expression, and I mean, I would say like when an artist creates, you really are, and you're putting it out there for people to experience and to form their own opinions on. That is a very, very vulnerable state. In a way, like we're kind of in that position too, where this discussion, we decided that we wanted to put it on the internet. Anybody who wants to listen to it and form their own opinions can do so, and they can let us know about it or not.
Hmm.
Speaking of AI art, did you message us like not
So,
suitable for work stuff? What is this?
oh, no. So, okay. We can probably put this in the description. I went looking real quick for examples of logograms, and those are logograms that Ken Liu made
Wait, seriously?
when he was writing the series. He wanted to like put it onto just kind of like physicality, like give it some amount of physicality when he was writing the series.
Whoa,
He
that
he
is
uh
not
he
what I
brought it up
imagined.
in a Reddit AMA.
Okay. Yeah, give me the link and I'll add the link to the
I
show
thought
notes.
someone made these and posted it in the AMA, but I guess I'm wrong.
No, it was him. Well, when he was writing the series, he wanted to get a sense of them when they're fully like inked and colored. He also said that these two are important in the last book and this book, and told people to figure it out
Wait,
what
really?
they are. Yeah.
Stay tuned.
I can
Do you
post the
do
Reddit link for
you
these.
Did
Wait.
Sean and Yetti, do you guys know what these mean?
I thought that was Play-Doh.
So the bottom one looks like a fin of a what's it called? Uh,
A Krubin?
yeah, Kruben fin.
Two people
I don't know.
praying. One on the right
Okay.
looks like a frog type of monster.
Yeah,
A giant eye. Okay, I'm sure
yeah,
this
Eye
is
of
Yeah.
fascinating.
Sauron, Burns,
Pod
blind goat.
You
Yeah,
think
it's
we're
very
gonna give you
relevant.
the hints? Come on.
No, I have no
Spoil
idea what I'm looking
anything?
at.
Okay. Wow,
But
fascinating.
I do also have a note kind of
Yeah.
on logograms as a whole and kind of art and whatnot, where it's like the idea of there's beauty and imperfection,
Yeah.
and how I have two notes or two kind of thoughts running through my head. One of them I know from the TV show White Collar, where they're able to tell who did what art, like painting art,
Yeah.
based on how it's been painted, like
Right.
brushstrokes. And
Right.
like that's how you're able to tell the forgery is the brushstrokes don't accurately light up, and how the logograms are art, and it relates to just kind of, I almost said real world art, but like actual painting.
Mm.
And then the other thing that kind of ran through my mind on the idea of beauty and imperfection is the scene in Good Will Hunting
Here
where
we go.
Robin Williams' character is talking about how the favorite moments he had with his wife weren't the good times or kind of like the bad times. They were kind of the in between, where it's like the imperfections of his wife is what he missed and loved most.
It's what makes you unique,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah.
It's a very nice kind of underlying theme in this section. And then how like Farah can tell that like this is me. What the heck? And then
Oh,
that's
yeah,
how
the
she's able
writing.
to find Kinry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, this
Oh
is my
yeah,
handwriting.
yeah.
Or this is like the idealized version of me when you put it into like a mirror, you know,
Right.
So
which
he
is
made a
what only the
typewriter,
person would
right?
love her. Sort of.
Typewriter, not a printing, not printing press, not at that
Strum
point.
writer.
He made like her handwriting a font in a
Yes.
typewriter.
I put a note here that was, yeah, skip the printing press, went straight to typewriter.
Mm-hmm.
But also with like strumming.
I know, it's such a creative way, right? It's like you giving a keyboard, right? But instead of like keys, it's a different kind of key. It's like strings.
Also, did Kinry make jazz?
Oh my god.
Maybe? I am
Like
very curious what it would sound like.
because he's asked like, okay, but what if this isn't made for it? It's like, well, if you alter it just like a little bit, you start to create something even though it wouldn't normally sound good. You can still create this formation just by altering it just, enough.
You're saying jazz doesn't sound good, or are you saying the music of Farah's soul is jazz, or neither?
I
Well,
love jazz. I think
jazz
jazz
is
is great.
it's a lot of it is improv and it's also very
Yeah.
like personal, right? Everybody can
I
like give
yeah.
it a unique
The
flair.
heart of jazz is kind of yourself.
Yeah.
You are showing who you are through what you make in jazz.
I see.
So before Seth runs away, does Seth have any last thoughts about this section and your predictions for how this is going to end?
Oh man, how it's gonna end? I like this section. It was a mixed bag for me because Thera's section. It's not Thera herself. I really liked Kenry's section. I really don't know how it's gonna end. I've thought a lot about it. I think that Gia is definitely going to lose her power. I really hope that Kenry's reunited with his mother somehow. I would like to believe in a world where Thera is reunited with her kids and that's happy, but her story has not been very happy. I think, and I thought about this from a purely military perspective, like wars of attrition and things. I think that it is almost certain that the Lyuku in Dara will surrender at some point. I just don't see a sustainable way for them to win at this point. So yeah, those are my kind of predictions. I'm really super excited to get into part 4 and 5 because this is it. This is like the
This is
last
it.
bit. So
Yep.
I just realized what you were wearing. It's an amazing Creed sweatshirt.
thank you very much.
Did this section not have you 6 feet from the edge?
Section 4 is going to take them higher.
Nice.
Nice.
At the end, he'll open. I'm not doing it.
Play us out,
Any-
Creed. Just kidding.
Any other thoughts?
Real quick, I thought I loved the ending of the moment where it ends with Firo kind of showing up like The Rock at WrestleMania, like through
Yeah.
like,
The
mist
Rock
something
or
like that.
like Triple H.
Triple H or something. Yeah. Like, oh my god.
Just like coming out of the smoke.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like talking about like this really tall man. He's like, okay, we know who this is.
Like straight
Yeah,
from
I
like
know-
80s action movie, the last like page.
I know Seth is bowing out shortly, but I do want to touch on the Tale of Three Swords a bit.
Okay.
Just a bit. For one, I'm kind of continuously perplexed by the heading quote of the story, which is, "Let a man fall with each 10 steps you take, walk 1,000 miles, a new path to make." I know that in the story itself, Pedagogy kind of equates that to the Grace of Kings in general. I don't 100% see how, because it's kind of a opaque, amorphous quote, in my opinion. Do you guys have any strong feelings on that quote? I'll say it again. Let a man fall with each 10 steps you take. Walk 1,000 miles, a new path to make.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought that whole story, because I read it again too after you said you were right before the episode. And it just kind of, I guess maybe it's obvious, but reminded me of just leadership styles or, how you make change in a position of power, the choices you make and how you can do that. And
The Three Swords.
yeah.
Yeah.
And with that quote, kind of, I was just thinking, I think in that section there was talk of like, you can't have doubt, or maybe it was later in the chapter or something like that.
No,
or,
it was in the Grace of Kings section.
Yeah, once you
You can have
commit-
doubt, but once you commit, yeah, you can't have.
Right. Yeah, you can't like second guess it or like that. And that's kind of what that quote reminded me of, is like when you make these choices, like you have to kind of know full well that you're going to ruin someone's life essentially.
But despite that, you might make a new path.
Right, yeah. And it it talks about, it could be that good path might not be decades in the future, or it could be immediate, but it could turn into something terrible 50 years after that, for an example. But it's just that you can't, you have to be willing to kind of let go of predicting how your change is going to affect everything. You just have to, like you said, make the choice. You can have doubts in it, but be at peace with it. And that's kind of what that walking 10,000 steps kind of, I mean, me and Sean both kind of pointedly know. There's how that kind of relates later in the series and stuff. I mean, immediately I was thinking of someone listening to that story. But yeah, that's kind of how I took it.
And I think it is because the grace of kings, right? It's not just all like, oh, you have the power, everything is dandy. There is a real responsibility and a burden that comes with it. And you are going to have to be okay with people that disagree with you. And however you can reconcile those disagreements, sometimes it's going to be like, maybe you lose a friend. Maybe you lose respect, like, from others. So it is a hard thing to sit with and be okay with. It's a real responsibility. I mean, just think about any like leadership position. Think about how many, just like the five of us, how many differing perspectives we have amongst just five people. Now, 10 times that, 100 times that, right? Million times that. If you're going to lead, you're going to have to understand, like, I think the doubt part is you're weighing. You're weighing the different perspectives. You're not just like rushing forward, you're actually considering. But once you come to that decision, because you do have to choose a path, right? Otherwise, you're not really leading. Once you choose a path and you're like, all right, this is it. This is what I'm committing to.
And I liked just the story, like each sword, like I'm sure you guys did it too, but like put a character in the story to which sword when they described how it would react,
Right.
or like how like
Or
it
multiple.
was. Yeah, or multiple characters. Like I think the first one, I forget what it's called, but it felt very Matazindu or
The Courage of
Yep.
Brutes.
Yep.
yeah, maybe Firo. Just it seemed like you could put their each sword's descriptions to a character throughout the series, present or past. I thought was really fun.
One thing I liked also was the commentary that's kind of given in response to this section. I think I really enjoy like literary analysis, and it's not something I think I've ever seen in a book before, where we get an excerpt from some historical literature,
Mm.
and then we get people's opinions in
Yeah.
universe on that and how different they are and how they all have kind of differing perspectives. I thought that was very fun to read.
Did you know that J.J. Abrams created a book called Ship of Theseus?
Yes.
Or actually, I think maybe it's just called S or something. But it's about the ship of Theseus, and the reading experience is like there's the text itself, but then there's the annotations, and it's like two people conversing via the annotations. It's such a cool concept.
It's too bad
Hmm.
J.J. Abrams is the one that had
I've had enough J.J. Abrams in my life.
There's
Yeah.
there's a book by Vladimir Nabokov called Pale
Uh-huh.
Fire.
Uh-huh.
And like the first third of the book is this poem, basically. And then the back 2/3 is like this insane person like talking about the poem.
Uh-huh.
Kind of similar, but like way more like
Yeah.
manic. And it
There's
was a good
also like
read.
House of Leaves that I think is I
I was
haven't
I
read
was thinking
it,
of House of Leaves
but
too.
based on
Yeah.
what I know about it, it's similar in concept.
It's a little, yeah, there's some similarities, but it's also a little different. But also this podcast,
Mm.
it's literally what we're doing.
Mm.
Hey,
Take it
I
easy.
like literary analysis. I did have another point on the swords. I like how I think it was in the like analysis portion of it with the commentary. Uh, Kind of up until this point, we viewed the grace of kings as like this good thing, as this
Mm.
thing that all leaders hope to attain, to be this leader that is able to have this. And like Cooney's in his like death scene, he tells the Reaper, "Was I at least a good grace of kings?" And he's like, "Yes, you were the best." But
Sigh good grace of
but I like how I think it's the commentary where it's like there have been leaders who were worthy of like having like this title almost of this Grace of Kings who are not considered good rulers.
Mm.
Whether or not like the actions that they took have been just viewed negatively throughout history, they still attain this ideal that the leaders in this series strive for. And I thought that was kind of an interesting like flipping it on its head of our perspective of it almost.
Yeah, it's more like a reality of the mindset that a leader needs to have as opposed to any true correct ideology. Also on the story, I'm curious about your guys' opinion on the placement of the story at this point of the book.
Well, I think part of it is like we have enough context, we have enough understanding of, the characters, the decisions that they made, the consequences. And so he could have put this at the very beginning, as a prelude or prologue,
I don't
right?
think it would have worked.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been as powerful because you didn't have the context. And then, but upon reread, then you'll be like, oh, okay, I get it. But I think like this was a good placement for it because you have the experience now.
Also, we're kind of on this roller coaster ride where we're climbing up the hill throughout this entire book. And we have a couple dips that are fun, but we're still building towards something. And I
Mhm.
think this very short section is us hitting that top, and now we're seeing the hill go down from where we're at. And for audio listeners, because that's all that we have right now, I'm using my hands to gesture. But yeah, I don't really have any predictions going forward.
Uh-huh.
My predictions have been met, and I am satisfied with the mecha. But I
All
do
right,
think
you're done with
I
the series, I guess.
I
Just you're
think things
done.
are gonna get a little crazy.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna get a little brazy going forward. So, and that's why Sean was like, I have to finish it."
I had to.
It's
Absolutely had
So
to.
I think we're getting a Sanderlanche, but for Ken Liu, a Lou Lanch.
I think you Lulanch. I think you can argue part 4 is like one of the best things he's written out of all 4 books.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean,
Oh yeah,
you get like everything in it.
it's
And it's all
also
like,
isn't it like really
know.
long?
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, part 5 is barely anything, so I guess you can
It,
count them together, but it's if you ever lost faith during the series, I mean, now you're gonna feel silly after you read this. You're like, oh, okay.
yeah, like
it's like more of the same, but it's like it's like the best of the best like the whole time, more or less.
we
Like
see
it's
where
just
it's going at least.
There's like a couple moments that I can't wait for you guys to read. Like there's like 2 vividly in my mind that are
All right, next
one for
week.
Seth. Ooh.
Next week.
Next week, or
I'm
are you
ready.
starting next week?
I'm starting next week.
Okay, I was like, I don't think we're recording next week.
Oh no, I'm
Put
starting
up
the
to
section.
5 times speed on my audiobook.
Yeah. Oh, since it's been a while since we've recorded, I can give an update to my Malazan read through.
Oh yes.
As I kind of have
do.
throughout this entire series. One thing of note, I went back and listened to a portion of early episode because I was trying to find out where I brought up Mecha for the first time, and it's very funny because I went into the series having never read Malazan, and it's
As
seen
one
me at the
does.
start of it and still at the start of it because I'm almost done with book 3. But that's kind of where I'm at. Is I'm
You don't
right
even
at
know
the
what it's
end of
about
book
yet.
3. Memories of Ice?
No, like Malazan in general.
No, God no. I'm every time I feel like I'm learning something, it's like, haha, no, you don't. I'm like, okay,
But no, I'm happy you liked Deadhouse Gates. I'm happy you're liking Memories of Ice.
it's good. It's good.
You got a lot to go, but that's a good thing.
But yeah. Also next week is when I'll start the end of this series of Dandelion.
Yeah, finish up Memories of Ice and then dive back in here.
I gotta finish it first. I have to.
Yeah, you're right there. You're like
I'm like
chapter 22.
I'm 20% through. I already got 20% left or something.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything.
It's gonna be awesome. Anyways, there's our requisite Malazan talk.
Well, because you brought it up,
I have to be the one.
there is a section in Malazan that you won't get to for a really long time.
Probably like a year. at my current pace.
But when you get to it, think about uh the part that we talked about today where turning your eyes away from suffering, deafening your ears to suffering, right? That is not the answer. And I think you'll
Nice.
see that throughout
Yeah, it's like a
I
lot of
already have. You
the
have. I
series.
mean,
But
there's a
there's a
character whose entire thing is that right now. So
yes, but there is a particular scene where for some reason people think it's controversial, like later down
fair enough.
the series. They're
Fair
like,
enough.
this is too much. And to that I say this.
that's life, baby.
She just flipped off the camera for those not looking.
I did
Yeah, both hands.
Can
I did
confirm.
Double bird.
Oh my goodness.
She hates Malazan fans,
That is
guys.
not what I said at all. Okay, with that, thank you everybody for listening. If you made it this far, let us know. And yeah, let us know what you thought about our discussion and anything like major that we missed. And, these are big, meaty questions to wrestle with. And if you want to join in on the discussion, join us on Discord. And with that, we'll say goodbye until next time.
Good night.
Good night.
Insert summary of part 3 here.
Yeah, nailed it.
Da 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 da.
And remember to keep that part in.
Thought we were going with Thera frolics with the Layuku. Kenry writes a book.
Yeah.
And
We can go with that if you want.
yeah, that's about it. Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
and then
I don't think there's a lot of frolicking.
yeah, no, there's some actually some bad stuff with their stuff.
It's like Pacific Rim without the aliens, without the big giant kaiju.
God, I can't wait to get into that.